and we're going to talk about Overhauling, which was one of the huge ones for you. And of course, Chip Foose, great guy. He's been on the radio show a couple of times. Always a nice guy. I mean, if his only talent was drawing, he would be great. You'd say this guy's a great artist, but he can take it into fiberglass and sheet metal and make it happen. But they people sometimes don't get it. They're new to the automotive world. You have to make it a mass appeal show. And how do you do that? I mean, I know in TV, every break, you've got to have some drama that you come back to. And, how do you make a TV show about cars, building cars for someone that maybe doesn't know about cars, but says, hey, this is an interesting story?
Well, our version of television is a little bit harder, right? Because truth be told, we had I won't say that person's name, but it's funny. It's like I threw an executive off the set because you're right. TV has this Kardashian kind of Orange County chopper that there has to be drama. Why don't you do this? And we had a certain executive on set, and again, I won't embarrass that person, even though I'd like to. It'd be fun. Anyhow. And they wanted at the time, they wanted Chris or Courtney to take a hammer and smash the back window accidentally and have Chip get angry at them and say, that's the only one in America. Why did you smash that? And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. So the artificial drama is really right. And and it's also an art. I want to say it's easy, but it's also an art. It's just not my art. Right. And it is super easy just to make artificial drama. Like that's the only one. That's the only, our version of television, I feel, is a lot harder because you have to pay attention to grab the stories. And luckily there was enough, and it's super easy for network executives just to fly out for a day and go, okay, you guys get mad and then make up later. And that's our plan. And really, honestly, I got in a big fight with him. I'm like, that's not what we do. Chip is not that kind of person. If you broke the only back window in the history of whatever car it was, and you accidentally broke it, Chip would not be mad at you. Chip would figure out a way to fix it. Chip would figure out how to get another one, or Chip would redesign the car around another window.
Right.
That guy would be yell and scream at you and tell you you're an idiot. I mean, that's what they want. Throw a wrench and tell everybody you're an idiot.
Here, this is a funny thing because I watched another show. I don't know whether I should say it. It was one of the worst shows.
Mine. I didn't say it. Go ahead.
Oh, and was about the guys that have that junkyard in the desert. And it was sort of like roadkill, but they weren't trying to be roadkill, right? Like they would be, we're going to restore this car. And they'd go and get an engine that'd been sitting in the sand and hang it off a crane and start it up and say, yeah, good enough. That works. Put it in the car, or the frame was bent on a car that they said, this car has got to be perfect. The car's done, and the guy's under the car with a torch and a hammer trying to straighten the frame. But that very scene you talking about played out. I remember it was a Barracuda, one of the early Barracudas. It has that big glass window in the back. They're like, whatever you do, don't break that back window. Right. And all of a sudden, like somebody's butt hits a stand and the light stand or something, and it smashes. And they're like, oh, it was the only one. It's almost like verbatim what you just said.
By the way, but that's weird.
But then here's the weird thing. Then they have the guy on the confession cam saying, I went to put the window in and it broke. Well, we just saw that like 5 seconds ago. It's like, yeah, I can see that. I can see what happened there. And I was like, wow, that feels so fake, man. That really does not work for me.
Yeah, maybe some people like watching that crap. It's just that's not something we do. We don't produce it. We were pretty fortunate that Overhauling was a big hybrid format. And I'll explain what that is. The hybrid format, if you pay attention, if you do the creative stuff up front, then producing is easy. And what I mean by that is if you build a complex format where you already have, I built in a 7-day, ticking clock. I don't have to make anybody fight. That's going to happen anyhow, right? We're building it in 7 days, and not a single person. It's funny. Chip and I went to, not a single person. I say Chip. 2002, Chip and I, once I created Overhauling, and Chip was the only one that was going to latch onto that, right? Because in Chip's mind and in Chip's world, anything's possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love and adore him to this day because I don't like negative people. I don't like stupid people. I don't like negative people. And if you say, "Hey, Chip, I need to do that," he will never say no. He'll be like, let me think about it. Okay. And he'll immediately pick up a pencil and start drawing the 5 ways that we could do it within that
Time
configuration.
frame. Yeah.
Yeah, time frame, configuration, budget, whatever. He was the only one to say yes. And then him and I went around to SEMA. We were talking to all our vendors, right? We are talking to everybody, uh, paint manufacturers, tool manufacturers, suspension, like, chassis manufacturers. Nope, can't do it. My 7 days. No, it takes 7 weeks to do what we do. Like, yeah, well, your cars are going to be crap because you can't do an interior in 7 days. And we're like, yeah, but what if you do this? What if I had it design, cut? What if, I mean, you start unwrapping it all, right? And it's really what the show has done to the industry. I mean, a lot of people are mad at me for sure because everybody because we wrecked it, right? The whole thing was car will be done in a year and a half. We're working on it. These things take time. Like
Right.
literally everybody F's me because they're like, hey, all my customers want it done in 7 days. I'm like, it is possible. Trust me. Because I went to 100 people and they're like, no, you can't. Yeah, you can't sand a car. You're not going to wet sand a car 2 hours after pulling it out of the heat booth. Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you put a partner in it, you can do anything. Yeah, we kind of figured it out.
That's neat because I always thought of that. That's like me when I was a kid trying to build a model in one day, and the paint's wet, and I ended up with a big thumbprint on the hood. Because I was trying to rush. I mean, typically, if you paint a car, what do they paint it and then they let it sit to cure out, right, for 3 months or so, and then they start thinking about assembly. So this really did push the envelope.
Well, we had good partners. BASF was one of our partners, and we started talking to Jesse over at BASF. Like, what do you do? Like, well, if we put hardeners in it and we bake it, and
Hmm.
the very first, I can tell you right now, the very first car we did was the 70 Chevelle. It's kind of a cinnamon color. I remember it very well. We didn't even have a booth to bake in at that time. We were shooting at Mitch Lanzini's. We actually were rolling that thing out in the sun to and then as it kind of got then wet or kind of got dry, then we would color sand it and hopefully not burn through it. So yeah, we were definitely pushing all ends of technology, and really we were to be truthful, we were pushing the kind of all the delivery systems and the warehouse systems because that was where the supply problem was, is all that.
Right.
We ended up, true story, I personally ended up with 4 or 5 sets of codes and keys where I could go into certain warehouses and get stuff. Like,
Wow.
E.F. Goodrich was so in love with our show back then, they finally just gave me the gate key to a warehouse in Ontario and said, whatever you want, just tell the guard you're taking it. And this is the curse of Chip Foose, right? Because that idiot will end up making a tire size choice like at 3 o'clock in the morning the day before, right?
Right.
Because he doesn't know. He'll look as he's just like he's
It needs to look right, though.
got to look right. And we'll have one set. He'll put on go, yeah, these are not it, and he'll just take them apart. He's like, I need a new set of tires, and they're like, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, okay, I know.
Bud, you've got those keys, don't you?
Well, I had to keep. We had it. It wasn't that quite that simple, but it was like I knew the gate guard at the BF Goodrich warehouse, which is way out in Ontario, and I knew I could get tires from him. He knew who we were. He had to make a couple phone calls. I had to wake some executives up um, in the middle of the night, and they didn't like that anymore. And then finally, it's like whatever he wants, just tell him not to call me. Just give it to him and make him go away. And that's really was how our early started.
Cool. And I like how you always work the story of the car in. That's great. I mean, because as car people, we understand they are emotional things. They trigger a lot of thoughts. Maybe it was started where somebody's no longer around, and I think that's good. That's great storytelling.
Yeah, again, so we had that. We always tell the backstory of the car because the cars are connective tissue between people, right? And
Sure.
everybody, I do car shows, and they kind of throw me into that moniker, which is fine. I'm okay with it now. But for a while I battled it. Like, no, you could do this with anything. I mean, cars are definitely a big part of our lives, and a part of everybody's lives because I look at people's eyes like, oh, my dad used to have a truck like that. My
Yeah.
dad just like that, and it's kinetic. They feel it and they smell it. It's visceral. And then we also had one thing that we ended up evolving, and it just ended up by the design of the show is we had to prank this person, right?
Hmm.
We also had to keep them pranked and keep them going and keep them on the hook for 7 days, right?
Right.
Which I'm not sure if many people can appreciate, is that we really had to, and we had a lot of help from insiders and stuff like that. But to me, it was an old magic trick, right? So I studied magic a little bit, but I studied it enough that if you force someone down a direction, right? So if you steal someone's card and you have this detective calling you, that's your way how you're going to communicate to get your car back. And
Right.
then about midway through, not to give you any secret, midway through, we end up, okay, we spotted your car. Okay, good. I got hope I can get my car back. A couple days later, lost your car, and then the last day we found your car and come get it, and it's the overhaul. So there was a that drama that behind the camera, you're watching, we 10 feet away, we're sanding and putting a new motor in this guy's car. Chris and AJ are there pranking him and just burying him, telling that we lost your car, it's destroyed.
You did a couple where you had a similar model car that was destroyed or burned out or something. It's like torturing the guy.
All I do is think, and this is just a part of my life, all I do is think how to torture people. But yeah, we did that. We did a sheriff where I literally bought a 64 convertible T-Bird and we crushed it.
Hmm.
It just, all the pieces kind of fell together, honestly. And that was actually kind of an evolution of another prank, because I'm good friends with Dennis Anderson, who grave digger, and he was in town one time, and we were gonna have kind of a fake car show and bring someone's car out, have grave diggers smash him. The timing didn't work out, but I'm always thinking about, like, how am I gonna absolutely just mess with someone?
You mean give the guy free tickets to the monster truck show and say, "Hey, we've got this special car we're going to crash," and have him run over it? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're the trophy car, and then then the monster truck, rolls off and ends up smashing it. But we always had big grandiose ideas of how to mess with people.
Where is the show now? Is the last season was 2019? Is it coming back at all? Anything you can announce about that, or?
Well, we just it was really weird. So it was really 2020 is was our last season got air. We got greenlit in 2019. We did 12 full episodes to help launch the Motor Trend app. And we did that early October, November 2019. And then it went on the linear channel, which is Motor Trend Linear, just recently. There was our final episode, and this is always kind of a fun trick of mine, but our final episode of this season, right? Season 10 or 11 or whatever it was. We ended up doing Shaquille O'Neal's car, and that
Hmm.
just finished that one. I mean, literally, without making everybody too depressed, but really what happened is we finished his car early January, and then we had to wait because it's hard to move Shaq, and I'm sure people in the NBA know that more than I do. It's hard to move Shaq around the country when he doesn't know he needs to be someplace. So we had to wait till he was out here in Los Angeles, because he does TNT NBA back in Atlanta. And then the Kobe Bryant incident happened, right? So he was out here, but as you know, it's just not good timing. We're not
No,
gonna, sorry, you had to bury your friend and this horrible tragedy happened. And
we got this shoot.
yeah,
Yeah.
I sold your car. I need you to come pick it up. So um, we waited quite a long time. And the network was, like, I told him, I remember I was with some network executives in New Orleans, and I'm like, I can't do anything. Like, there's no way I'd be like, it's just, I don't feel good about coaxing him out. And literally that night, like that happened like Tuesday or Wednesday, that night on Thursday night, TNT, him and Charles and everybody were like mid-court crying for an hour and a half
Right.
on,
Right.
on, on TV. And I'm like, oh, this is horrifying.
Yeah.
Um, so we ended up, like, a month and a half later, he was out here for something else. We ended up getting him, pranked him, and ended up giving his car. He couldn't have been more gracious. We built him a 64 Impala, and we put Kobe's number on it, in
Wow.
the back, one of the emblems, and it was very touched by it. So that was our final episode of season 12. I think it was season 12. Yeah, that's our final episode of season 12 that we just finished production, and then the world came to an end. So love it to come back. This show always comes back. It's just one of those things that it's
It,
really driven by the fans. Fans love it internationally and domestically, and they keep on pushing.
it's Bud Brutsman's "I Love Lucy." That's what I call it. Like it's on somewhere in in the world at some time. Any time of the year, any time of the day, there's probably an Overhauling episode playing. Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we did this really. We did this they asked me to do some stuff this season, which is the last season, uh, for the kind of like web stuff. So we created a show called Inside Overhauling, and all it was a very simple concept, low budget. It was me, Chris Jacobs, and Chris, right? And we're really the three idiot pranksters, right? And I got to tell you a funny story, and then you should watch these because it's called Inside Overhauling, and you can download it on the. It's actually available now on the Motortrend app. But really,
Mhm.
what happened is it was originally, because I'm never on camera. It was originally just Chip and Chris, and we would ask them like, "Hey, how did this come about?" And I remember we're sitting there shooting like the first scene. They're like, "Oh, I think this happened, this happened, this happened." And I look at them like, "No, no, that's not how it happened. It happened like this. Like that's not you guys." So, but here's the thing: they're building cars. He's hosting a show. I'm pulling the puppet strings from behind, setting things up and getting things in motion. And finally, they said, "You need to sit on the couch." So I'm like, "All right, I'll sit on the couch. All right, just to keep you guys honest. You're not just rewriting history for no apparent reason." So we sat on the couch, and it's great. We all have great chemistry. We've been together for 18 years. Is it 18 years? Oh my God, yeah, it's terrible.
That's crazy.
17 or 18 years we've been together, the three of us on every single episode. And we started telling stories about how, our favorite episodes, the scary episodes, how we almost got Chip shot one time, which was kind of scary. Yeah, we did a lot of crazy stuff.
That's a great way to create content, and the inside stories, people appreciate that. They always appreciate that, whether it's going behind the making of a music video or the making of Overhaul.
Hey, so it's like after the rose ceremonies, we have this crazy talk show that we're on there. I'm on there just doing what I normally do, which is talk shit and tell everybody what's happening. But people want to know. People like to hear the behind the scenes.
Yeah. I think one of the best things you guys did, I remember at SEMA, you built the tent and you built a car during SEMA, kind of to prove like, yeah, this is a real show. And I remember going out there. I think the show had ended. And of course, there was a bunch of dinners and parties and that I was going to, but it was like a cold night, kind of a chilly night. And I thought, I walked over there and it's like what my dad would say, all just asses and elbows, everybody working, doing whatever. And I thought this is going to be cold to work on it. And then I think about midnight, I walked across the parking lot and people were still working. And I thought, wow, it's a long night and a lot to do in a short time to get it done.
Yeah, my partnership and business business relationship with SEMA is incredible. I mean, they're an amazing group of people. They appreciate what I do, and I do a lot of experiential marketing and stuff with them. So we came together and like, I had a lot to prove at that time too. We had a lot to prove to a lot of people. It's like, is this done in 7 days? Well, you can come and see. So we had to move the circus, legitimately move the circus, and people forget like at that time, the front parking lot of SEMA was nothing, right? And
Hmm.
SEMA was thinking about like, how do I expand our footprint? We have more stuff going on than we normally do, and we have this parking lot. I remember I was able to park my car out there at one point as a parking. Like I got a special little gold pass, and I'd go pull up right in front of the building and walk out. Um, and now, so I designed this. If you remember correctly, I designed a red carpet that came off the front of the entrance, and it angled right into our tent. And we had all of our sponsors were around there, and had MagnaFlow, and at the time Dodge was our sponsor. We had all these sponsored trailers around. We created our little kind of TV village out there. Now the hard part is, we had to do it live. We had our K rail, we had our bleachers, we had this whole thing set up. And SEMA, I remember I drew it out. I had my brother do a CAD drawing of it, and I showed it SEMA. Said, "I want you to build me this, and then we'll bring the TV show here."
Yeah.
And we ended up doing that probably 4 or 5 different times. And the hardest part for us, because D-Day or reveal day for us is always flexible, right? We say 3 o'clock, and then we know Chip pushes the envelope to like 7 or 8 or 9 or sometimes midnight as he's doing little details. But part of my deal was, and I remember the very first year, dude, we did it inside up at the top of South Hall in this little alcove. Um, and I remember Chris Kirstein pulled up beside me, and then we're on the set of bleachers, and my version's much, but there's probably 2 or 3 thousand people in the bleachers, and the bleachers were rocking back and forth, getting ready to watch this guy's life to change because we just rebuilt his Mustang. He had a '70 Mustang. 514 Gambler was the name of that episode. Um, and then like, this is a real thing. Like people are sticking around, and people would walk back out there, check on the progress of the car. And what we did is we revolutionized a lot of things, like how we paint a car. Like, I don't know, Okay, so I called AFC, this guy named Les Laughlin, who's amazing at AFC. I'm like, ever built a paint booth? He's like, yeah, my guys can do it in like a day. All right. So
Wow.
how do we get heat to a paint booth? Portable tank. All right. So we do a portable tank. I'm going to have AFC build a paint booth in a parking lot. And I had the old guy who I love, his name's Chuck Swartz, who used to run Convex, who was the head of logistics for SEMA. You can't do that. Fire marshal will never do. You can't do it. Like everything was you can't do. I'm like, no, I think we can do it. So I'd contact the fire department, tell them what we're doing. It's a downdraft booth. It's We're not exploding it. It's a gigantic propane tank, but it's still a propane tank. It's not like we're doing bonfires.
There's probably some guy cooking hot dogs that has a propane tank somewhere around there out
Yeah,
front, right?
propane tanks, and the connections are fine. Here's your permit. So we built a paint booth on site, which by the way, now it's done every convention everywhere. Everybody's building paint booths, right? But first time we were welding out there. We are doing our own paint booth. And it's again, it's the Chip and I will sit down. It's like, how do we pull this off? Well, we have a paint booth there. Then we could, pull the thing apart, shove it in there, prime the body, pull it back out, get stuff started. So we had our own paint booth on site. We didn't
That's
want to,
cool.
where are you going to go? So we had to do all that stuff. And, it was a big success. And with people watching this live at the time, this live TV show just come to life. And, there's Chris and AJ and Chip, and they're doing all this stuff. It was great. It was great for sponsors. It's great for the network, and really the network. I remember bringing the network out there. Like, what is this?